All right. Good morning, everyone. This is our weekly advisor district meeting. Like we usually do, go ahead, put where you're from in the chat so we know you're here. All right. COVID-19 updates, really nothing new here. Um, just a reminder to update your status if you haven't, so we can get that historical data from the fall. Yeah, nothing new there. So moving down, advisor 2021 changes. I mentioned this last month, but just to reiterate, we are not collecting the student crisis event flag. You can publish it, but we won't use that data. So that's the flag that was meant to mark students that are affected by a crisis, originally like a flood or tornado, something like that. CRDC, again, I mentioned this last time. Just so you know, again, 2021 is your CRDC data collection year. There's the list with the data elements and the FAQ at the fed.gov link there. We will be releasing some CRDC validation reports later this month, I believe. So we'll let you know. I'll put a message out on the website, maybe a bulletin item too when those go out. But yeah, nothing new there with 2021. I do have an update on the advisor validation website. So we've pushed out a few things. An update went out that has age is now a filter and a column that you can pull back in the special education lookup. So like if you just want to, see 5-year-olds or something, you can pull that. The SPED and the demographic lookups now show what filters you selected on the results page, just to make it clear what you're looking at. They're listed down below your results, by the way. Something that I meant to do earlier, we just kind of forgot about. So the student ID lookup, the program lookup, basically now any of our lookup screens. If you're looking at 1920 data, you are now looking at that final lock data, which is, basically the data that we use for everything at this point for 1920. So just in case you're wondering if that looks different, it's because we've switched off the live data. Student lookup, we added the enrolled school now, or enrollment school. So when you're looking at the enrollments in the student lookup by ID, we've always listed the reporting school because that's mostly what the school that we use for the validation. So the enrolled school, we decided to add though, it could be useful in some situations. Enrolled school is basically the not reporting school. It's the basic school, whatever school you have the student listed in your SIS. It could be a non-reportable school, things like that. We thought it would be useful to have that there, so that you see them both side by side. And the high school feedback report, that has been added. That was a report that used to be on the DRS data reporting system secured site. So I updated that and brought that forward so that you can look at it in Advisor. Basically, it just looks at all of your post-secondary data that we have and kind of based on, and a single graduating class. And then it just kind of looks at that data in a various different subgroups. All right, any questions about 2021 stuff so far? You can always unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. All right, I didn't figure there would be. For 21-22 next year, we are getting very close to having the initial documentation and sandbox ready for the SIS vendors. We are working through a few issues with our new server, but now I'm maybe thinking probably by next week is when I would expect for the vendors on here, when you can expect to get an email from me with all the updated documentation. So we're, again, some of this I covered last month. We are going to version 3.5. That's what I call it in shorthand. Technically, it's the way EdFi now refers to it is Suite 3 version 5.1.0. In my mind, I still just think of it as version 3.510. So I'll kind of, it's a lot shorter to just say version 3.51. That's kind of how I'll refer to it, but just in case anyone is confused, that is the official EdFi way of referring to their versions now. But yeah, we don't really see major differences compared to the version we are using now. There are some things we already have confirmed changes coming for next year, so I thought we'd like to highlight some of them here. We can discuss them a little bit. I mean, including this in our documentation, all of our work days when we're covering next year, we'll be talking about these. So you will definitely see this list again. But just to put a few of them out in front of everyone, and this is one we actually talked about in the last month or two, how there's a new standardized EdFi way that several states have been working on for documenting learning modality. Learning modality being if a student is in classroom or remote or a mixture of both. So I won't go into super detail about it. For any of the vendors on the call, several of the vendors I think have already been in contact with EdFi about it. We are going with the program aggregate method, simpler method that does not use calendar data, and essentially uses a program. Just like right now, we use a program record to label a student who is getting free lunch from this date to this date. In a similar way, we'll have a way to mark a student as being in remote learning from this date to this date. So there's lots more stuff to cover. EdFi link there if you are interested. That also means that next year we get to undo the thing we added for this year to try to cover it. So in the calendar instructional day code, we no longer will have the 10 and 11 code that we just added. So we go back to just only using 01 again for instructional days. We do have a new special education exit code. Or yeah, the agenda here, Robert, is posted on our website. But we will be also putting out a full changes documentation next week to list this stuff. So you might as well just wait for that. So yeah, new SPED exit code. I don't think this is replacing any existing code. Just a new one, SPED 18, parent or legal guardian revoke consent for special education services. It's applicable to Part B.
Max, districts used to report these students along with the return to regular education in SPED 02. And special education is asking we actually break those out separately from each other. So SPED 02 will remain return to regular education, but that's really due to their IEP ending. Whereas if the parent revokes, they're going to use this new SPED 18.
Thank you. And yeah, that does make a lot of sense to keep those separated. Some other new codes. This one will be a little bit of work to adapt to, I'm sure. But in order to better keep track of where students are going after they leave your district, we are getting rid of just the 201 transfer out code and replacing it with 5 new codes that are more specific here. So I expect that a lot of schools already know this, but it just wasn't data that we were receiving before. So we've got transfer out to a public school, special purpose school, a non-public school, again, all in Nebraska, exempt homeschool, I guess in Nebraska as well, or transfer out to another state or country.
And as part of the reason for this is we're going to be giving additional guidance for students who specifically are transferred out to a Nebraska special purpose school. It really isn't a change to what the vendors need to do. It's more a change to what the districts will need to do to help us continue tracking these kids. But that guidance will be coming out later.
I might have an ignorant question, but what is a Nebraska special purpose school?
The special purpose schools are like the YRTCs, Geneva North. I guess that one's now closed.
That's not Rule 18.
No, those are interims, and that guidance is not changing.
Okay.
Currently, these special purpose schools do report to us, and so typically you've always transferred those kids out, and then the district of residence has kind of stopped tracking them. But unfortunately, what we find is we're losing a lot of those kids, and these kids, they're already vulnerable populations. And we really find we need to track them. Most of them end up being special education. And so special education is trying harder to track these kids to make sure they're continuing to receive services. And that was the impetus toward putting the additional tracking around these kids.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
This is Leah from Papillion Vista. I just have a question with respect to the exempt homeschool. You know, we get told that they're going to apply for homeschool. I guess my real question is, are you going to try to tie that to the homeschool list that's distributed by NDE? Because the timing of that and how all of that happens can be far apart.
We will provide additional guidance on utilizing that transfer out code. Probably at the same time, we provide the guidance on transferring them out to special purpose schools and give you more information at that time.
Well, the other thing is they may tell us, and we may get a records request from a Nebraska public school, but then something happens and plans change, and they wind up moving out of state, but we don't necessarily know that. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how is this data going to be used, and what is the true purpose, and how tight is this going to be? Because there's an awful lot of different situations and scenarios happening that we don't always find out about.
And I can recognize that. I do think that we're going to be working through a lot of those as the year goes along. And the guidance will probably be modified in some cases to help make it more clear when you should be utilizing the codes. Part of this is also to help track, say, kids for cohort purposes. It's going to be helpful knowing that they went out to a non-public school versus going out to a public school, versus going, completely leaving the boundaries of Nebraska for their education. But yes, there will be the more tracking around it, but we'll work out those ones where they give you, do the records request and then never show up at that public school that does the records request. We'll have to work that out also.
But yeah, we haven't planned all of the ways this data could be used. But yeah, it does. Now that we take this one broad code and split it into 5 more specific ones, that gives us a lot more options to work with. Anyone else have any questions about the new fields for next year here?
Will those fields start July 1?
Well, retroactively, yeah, I guess that would be the date that it applies. It would start with whenever your 21-22 data begins being published. So that's where usually we open that up in August to begin publishing the new school year, and then after you get your SIS update, then you're able to publish it. So
yeah, if you're publishing the data to the current ODS, you will not use these codes. If you start publishing the data to the new ODS, you'll need to use these codes.
alrighty, anyone else? Alrighty, I'm gonna move down. Vendor status updates. I have not heard of anything that I need to communicate, but any of the vendor people on the line, if you wanted to share something, go ahead.
Well, Max, this is Min from SRS here. I just wanted to ask you, with that new SPED 18 exit code, when would it be a good time to have that implemented into SRS be?
That would also have to be implemented when SRS is connected to the 21-22 advisor system.
Okay, so that would be in preparation for the October advisor?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Anyone else?
This is Robert. Nothing really exciting is happening with Infinite Campus. I'd say we were gonna have the student ID import and export up to speed with your new format. So we won't be using the, what were we calling it? The legacy format any longer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be coming out here before the end of the school year. So they won't have to worry about it when you stop accepting the legacy one.
Yep. That's definitely another change we're gonna have for next year. I didn't put it into this month's meeting, but it will probably be covered in next month's if I were to guess.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're all set for it, or will be.
So yeah, and we'll have the file format, the updated spec ready soon as well. So
Cool.
This is Amy. I can be your Power School person. So yeah, we're just working on some small fixes. That unique ID new file should be done towards the end of this month. We're kind of just working on people who are getting those like 754 and I think 756 errors, kind of those hanging staff errors that are left, etc. So we're still kind of working through that. So if I got any Power School folks on there and you're not part of a consortium, so ESU 10 or Nebraska Power School, please let me know if you've opened up any tickets with Power School. You can do that via the NDE help desk. We do have weekly meetings with the developer team. So that way we're on top of any issues that are coming our way. And that's all I've got.
thank you. I could give a little update for Go Edgestar. I will be meeting with them soon to go over some of the catch up on the items we had listed to make sure those are fixed for this school year. I just need to schedule that soon.
Greg with JMC here. Nothing out of the ordinary to report, just normal questions from our users that we're answering. No bug fixes pending.
Good to hear. I think that's everyone I saw. So, yep, that's all we have for this month. Next meeting is April 14th. I should note, we are still looking at having a virtual conference sessions in April. I don't believe we've set the official date yet. So expect to see some communication. We'll be sending communications out through the bulletin and on the NDE website and other places when the data conference is all set and ready to go. It'll be like last year. There'll be pre-recorded videos. I think we're also going to do live sessions. Presumably it will be free, I think. You just would need to sign up. So we'll make sure to send that out to everyone when we know what exactly that conference is going to look like. So does anyone else have questions or anything you want to bring up? All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will see you again next month.
Thank you, Max.